Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you for listening, fellow Toastmasters. I want to tell you a story of when I studied abroad in Budapest, Hungary. I can't tell you how excited I was to get accepted to one of the most prestigious study abroad programs in the country. It was known for mathematics, and that was what I was studying at the time. And if you knew me in college, the only thing people knew about me was that I studied math. And I was so excited to meet people that had similar interests to myself. So I got accepted. I got off the plane. I met people such as myself that became some of my best friends. And I loved the food and the language and some of the words I learned. One of the words, Nagyon Fa. Has anyone ever learned Hungarian or know what Nagyon Fa means? Okay, so this will be really fun. I get to share some really fun word with you. Share a really fun word with you. I learned what this word was through a very interesting experience. So I'm just going to kind of go into the story of what happened up until the time I got off the plane and the time I ended up in the hospital. So I decided I'm going to try some Hungarian cuisine. So if any of you have ever been to Hungary, you may have tried this cuisine. It's called langos. It's essentially fried bread covered in sour cream and cheese. Very healthy delicacy of Hungary. And after that, I decided, that wasn't enough. I think I should try this best waffle in the world. That was what it said on the top of a building. And so I said, obviously I have to try it. And then I went in. The waffle was covered in ice cream and sweets. It was disgusting and delicious all at the same time. I then thought, wow, my stomach kind of hurts. So I stayed in bed the next day. I had kind of a little fever. Thought, no big deal. It's just kind of something that happens. I didn't treat my body very well. A day later, I realized I have a really bad fever, 104. I decided, maybe it's time I go to urgent care. So I kind of limp over to the urgent care, and I see the doctor finally, and he starts poking me all over my stomach and say, does this hurt? Does this hurt? In English, obviously. And I say, no, and then finally he hit something, and I said, yes, that hurts a lot. And he says, well, it looks like you have appendicitis. And I said, I remember distinctly I had a single tear that dropped down my face because it was my 4th day in Budapest, Hungary, and my favorite study abroad program in the country. I was so excited to get there. I met some of the best people in my life, and I was studying amongst some of the most famous mathematicians of all time. And I have appendicitis. So I think of all the repercussions right then and there, and I say, okay, what do I do next? And he said, well, you have to go to the hospital. You can either get rushed there in an ambulance, or you can drive there yourself on a bus or whatever. My foresight is 2020, obviously, so I decided to, take the bus and get my stuff, because I wanted my stuff. I didn't know how long I'd be there. I didn't know what was going to happen. But looking back, I should have taken the ambulance, because after I got my stuff, I ended up in the waiting room for around 4 hours with appendicitis on the floor, and the hospital was crowded, and it was kind of like The Walking Dead. People were, I kid you not, there was a lady there that had hit her husband with a frying pan and he was bleeding. It was just awful. Everybody was dying, essentially, from my memory. Then I see my doctor, and I was in awe after 4 hours of sitting in the waiting room, because this man was tall, handsome, basically male model-like. So this was just like a dream and a weird reality. I was like, I am sleeping. This is so weird. This past 24 hours has been the weirdest 24 hours of my whole life. So I don't know if you guys know Maria Sharapova's ex-boyfriend, Dimitrov. You might not. He looked like that guy. It was so tall and handsome, and I was just like, okay, I wish the circumstances were different. So I get rushed into the hospital, and I get operated on that night by my really tall, handsome doctor. And I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm in my tiny bed. I'm going to kind of lay it out for you. The bed was about this big and this size, and it was very, very small, and I shared a room with about 6 or 7 people. And the lady across from me had some sort of dripping blood device with a big vial, and the lady, I guess I was sitting right here, the lady to my right of me had cancer, and it was terrifying. And so none of the nurses spoke English, and I learned the word Nagyon Fa. It means it hurts a lot, and I used it all of the time. And that was my first week in Hungary.